The sky wasn't supposed to move like that. In the remote observatory atop Mauna Kea Observatory, Dr. Lucas Wren squinted at the blinking radar screen. A signal had appeared out of nowhere, an irregular pattern unlike anything catalogued in human history. At first, it looked almost comical, like a cluster of glowing red spheres bouncing in formation. But something about its movement set his gut on fire. It's massive," he muttered to his assistant, Mara, "and it's coming straight for Earth." By the time news broadcasts picked it up, the first civilians had already noticed. At dawn, towns across Italy reported a colossal red figure hovering above the horizon. Social media exploded with grainy footage, a humanoid shape, skin shimmering like tomato-red armor, towering over skyscrapers, its limbs unnaturally long and flexible. The internet dubbed it instantly, Tomato Man. People laughed at first. A walking tomato? Could this be a publicity stunt? But laughter turned to screams when the first cities went dark. Streetlights flickered and died. Cars stalled. Communication satellites faltered. The Tomato Man didn't speak, didn't move quickly, but its sheer presence warped reality. Metal twisted under its touch, concrete splintered beneath its feet, and wherever it stepped, the air itself seemed to hum with tension. The world's militaries mobilized, but conventional weapons did little. Missiles ricocheted harmlessly off its bio-armor. Tank shells flattened against its chest as if fired into water. For the first time in human history, fear wasn't of the unknown, it was of the impossible. Dr. Wren, Mara, and a select team of astrophysicists and engineers were suddenly pulled into a global command center in Geneva UN headquarters. Screens flickered with multiple views, city after city under the shadow of this towering alien. And then came the reports that chilled the command center to silence. Entire military squads, special forces, even elite mech pilots, had vanished in moments after engaging the creature. No debris, no bodies, just nothing. "This isn't a war," said Mara, her voice tight. "It's a predator test." Lucas's stomach sank. She was right. Every step of the Tomato Man seemed measured, almost clinical, as if it was cataloguing humans for some purpose beyond comprehension. The creature didn't just destroy, it learned. By the third day, chaos had spread worldwide. Entire cities evacuated, while others became ghost towns overnight. Human ingenuity had no immediate answer. Drones were swallowed whole, AI defense systems overloaded in seconds. People whispered legends of ancient monsters in a half-joking, half-frightened attempt to rationalize what they saw. But no myth captured the reality, a being whose size, strength, and strategy surpassed anything humans had faced. And then, the first direct encounter happened. A squad of elite soldiers, 12 men and women heavily armed, was sent to intercept the Tomato Man near Tokyo. They were heroes in every sense, trained for the impossible. Their radios crackled with confidence at first. Hold formation, target its limbs, fire everything. Then, silence. Moments later, a live feed camera captured a horrifying sight. One soldier's mech suit lifted into the air, twisted like taffy, then dropped. Others were flung backward, some disappearing entirely in the blink of an eye. By the end, only smoke and shattered earth marked their path. Command watched, frozen. Humanity had just seen the raw power of the Tomato Man, and it had been merciless. Lucas turned to Mara. "We can't fight it conventionally. Not like this. We need an idea humans have never tried before." Mara's face hardened. "Then let's make one. We're the species that survives the impossible. Lucas. That's what we do." Above them, outside the command center, the sky darkened with the sheer shadow of the alien's approach. Somewhere across the globe, ordinary humans were witnessing the same horror, some fleeing, some hiding, some daring to record it all for posterity. One thing was certain: the Tomato Man had come to Earth, not just to observe, but to test, and mankind's memory of favors, debts, and survival instincts was about to be pushed to its absolute limits. The last transmission from Tokyo before the line went dead was a single, chilling message. "It's learning, and it's hungry." And then, silence. The world had changed in 3 days. Cities were abandoned, governments were fractured, and fear hung like a thick fog over every corner of the planet. Yet in the chaos, humanity did what it always did best. It fought back. In a sprawling underground military facility beneath Denver, Dr. Lucas Wren and Mara joined a coalition of scientists, engineers, and military strategists. They called it Project Ironroot, a desperate attempt to give humans even a sliver of advantage against the Tomato Man. Lucas leaned over a holographic display of the alien. Every engagement shows the same pattern. It doesn't just destroy, it studies, predicts our moves. It's not just strong, it's intelligent. A general, tall and grim-faced, interrupted. "We can't wait to figure it out. Cities are falling faster than we can evacuate. We need a counterstrike. Tonight." Mara frowned. "We don't even know its weakness." "That's what makes this human ingenuity," Lucas said. "We adapt faster than anything else in the universe. We find a way." The first strike was a test, a squadron of drones armed with high-frequency plasma disruptors. They launched from Guiana Space Center, targeting the Tomato Man as it moved toward the Pacific coast. On the screens, humanity's hope flickered. The alien reacted slowly, almost lazily at first. Then, with terrifying precision, it swept an arm across the sky. Plasma beams disintegrated midair. The drones didn't stand a chance. Within minutes, the squadron was reduced to nothing but sparks and ash. "They're useless," the general barked. "Everything is useless." Lucas clenched his fists. "Nothing is useless. Just incomplete. We're thinking too small. It's bigger, yes, but it reacts like a neural network. It learns. We have to outthink it." That's when they introduced Captain Eli Vance, a former Space Marine turned tactical strategist. With rugged features and eyes that burned with determination, he walked into the war room and surveyed the maps. "You want to beat it? You don't throw missiles. You force it into a position where it has to make a choice. Predictable patterns are the only way to exploit a creature like this." His plan was simple but insane. Lure the Tomato Man into a canyon using automated decoys while humans struck from multiple angles with experimental weapons. It relied on timing, coordination, and sheer nerve. One wrong move, and the entire team would be obliterated. The humans executed the plan. Satellites coordinated decoys. Artillery units primed experimental EMP disruptors. Fighter jets formed a chaotic net above. The moment of truth came in Grand Canyon. The Tomato Man appeared on the horizon, its massive form red and glistening in the sun, limbs swinging with terrifying grace. It paused, sniffing the air as though sensing the trap. The decoys activated, flashing lights, sonic emissions, and holographic projections of human soldiers. The alien lunged. For a moment, it worked. The Tomato Man followed the false targets into the canyon. Humanity cheered quietly in the command center. But then the alien stopped mid-step. It rotated its head slowly, as if understanding the trick immediately. Its attention snapped to the real soldiers. Chaos erupted. One squad was thrown against the canyon walls, another swallowed by the earth as if gravity had betrayed them. The experimental EMP weapons fizzled. Fighter jets dodged devastating energy pulses. Every human move was anticipated before it happened. Captain Vance gritted his teeth. "It's learning faster than we can adapt." Lucas whispered under his breath. "It's not just strong. It's smarter than anything we've ever faced." By nightfall, the humans had survived, but the Tomato Man had advanced hundreds of miles closer to the heart of the continent. Cities along the way were already losing power, and evacuation corridors were clogged with panicked refugees. Humanity had struck back, yes, but the strike had revealed one terrifying truth. The Tomato Man was not only unstoppable, it was evolving. Mara looked at Lucas. "We can't beat it with brute force. We have to think like it." Lucas nodded. "And we will. Humans survive by learning faster than the threat, faster than fear, faster than anything else in the universe." But as the team worked late into the night, plotting new strategies, the global communication network picked up an encrypted, static-laced broadcast, humming across every frequency. A deep, resonant voice, alien in timbre yet somehow mocking, whispered 3 words: "Adapt, or perish." And then, silence. Humanity had been pushed to the edge, but desperation fuels ingenuity. Deep inside the fortified labs of Los Alamos National Laboratory, Lucas Wren and Mara pored over the data collected from the failed strikes. Every motion of the Tomato Man had been recorded, every energy pulse measured, every tactic analyzed. Slowly, a terrifying pattern emerged. "The way it moves," Lucas whispered, "it's not random. It calculates, anticipates. Even our decoys. It's learning from them." Mara frowned. "Then brute force will never work. We need something else. Something it doesn't expect." They called Captain Eli Vance into the lab. He examined the simulations, his jaw tight. "It's bioengineered," he said finally. "Not just strong, not just smart. It's designed to adapt. Its neural network, if we can call it that, is organic, almost impossible to predict. But—" He tapped the screen. A small anomaly appeared in one of the energy pulses emitted by the Tomato Man. "See this? A slight fluctuation in its plasma emissions. Tiny, almost imperceptible. But it's consistent." Lucas leaned closer. "Meaning?" "Meaning," Eli said, eyes sharp. "It has a weak point. Something subtle. Something humans might exploit, if we can strike fast enough, before it adapts." The lab buzzed with tense excitement. The scientists ran simulations, calculated risks, and prepared prototype weapons. Some relied on disrupting its neural pathways. Others attempted to exploit chemical imbalances in its biomass. Everything was experimental, everything dangerous. Humanity had no choice. Meanwhile, the Tomato Man marched across continents, leaving devastation in its wake. Entire cities were now uninhabitable. Survivors told stories of its presence, how it could flatten a skyscraper with a single step, how its arm could coil around a tank like rope, and how it seemed almost aware of their fear. Lucas and Mara worked non-stop, refining a device they called the neural disruptor, capable of sending a high-frequency pulse designed to temporarily scramble the alien's neural network. But it was untested, and every second of delay meant another city lost. Captain Vance gathered a strike team. "This isn't just science," he said grimly. "It's survival. We go in, deploy the disruptor, and hope it works. There's no margin for error. And if it fails—" Mara cut in. "Then humanity learns again. That's what we do. That's who we are." The plan was audacious. Lure the Tomato Man into a controlled zone near Sahara Desert, where the team could deploy the neural disruptor while minimizing civilian casualties. Drones, decoys, and remote weaponry would create a false battlefield. Human soldiers would move in at the last moment, guided by Eli's tactical expertise. The desert lay silent, waiting. At first light, the ground shook with the alien's approach. It moved slower now, deliberate, as if it had sensed the trap but chose to test it anyway. The first wave of decoys activated, flashing lights, heat signatures, holographic projections. The Tomato Man paused, scanned, then advanced. Energy pulses shot from its limbs, vaporizing sand and stone alike. Lucas and Mara monitored from the command center, hearts racing. "It's noticing the patterns," Mara said. "It's reacting faster." Eli's team adjusted positions, waiting for the perfect moment. The neural disruptor hummed, ready. The slightest hesitation could spell disaster. Then the alien stopped completely. For a moment, the desert was deathly quiet. Every human held their breath. And then, with a sudden lunge, the Tomato Man charged straight into the trap. Lights flared, drones activated, weapons fired. The neural disruptor pulsed. For a fraction of a second, the alien faltered. Its massive form shuddered, limbs twitching uncontrollably. Humanity had found its opening. But the moment was fleeting. The Tomato Man adapted, its neural network recalibrating faster than anyone predicted. Eli yelled, "Pull back! Pull back now!" The strike team barely escaped, leaving the desert in smoldering chaos. The alien, though momentarily disrupted, moved on, stronger, faster, more aware than before. Lucas clenched his fists. "It's learning, and it's evolving every time we strike." Mara looked at him, determination blazing in her eyes. "Then we evolve faster. That's the only way. Humanity doesn't just survive. We outthink, outlast, and outfight." Above the desert, the Tomato Man paused, towering over the dunes, scanning the horizon. Its glowing red eyes reflected the early sun. Somewhere deep in its alien mind, it seemed to understand one thing: humanity was dangerous, not because of strength or numbers, but because they never quit, never forget, and always find a way. The final words of the day came from Lucas, whispered as the sun set. "We've seen its secret. Now we prepare the gambit. The real battle begins tomorrow." The day humanity had dreaded had arrived. The world watched from bunkers, shelters, and live feeds as the Tomato Man approached the fortified zone in Siberian tundra. Here, humans had prepared their ultimate gambit, a combination of conventional weapons, experimental tech, and sheer strategy. For the first time, every human effort was concentrated into one desperate stand. Captain Eli Vance stood on the command platform, binoculars fixed on the horizon. Beside him, Lucas Wren adjusted the neural disruptor, which now hummed like a caged storm. Mara monitored global feeds, relaying updates from strike teams positioned around the battlefield. The Tomato Man appeared, a scarlet colossus against the pale snow. Its limbs carved deep grooves into the frozen ground as it moved, each step measured and deliberate. Human soldiers fired in waves, artillery, plasma cannons, and high-velocity rounds, but most had no effect. Sparks bounced off its bioarmor, and energy pulses tore through the sky. Then the first wave of drones activated, forming a barrier of false targets. The alien hesitated, scanning. It was learning, calculating, and adapting in real time. Eli barked orders. "Deploy the neural disruptor. Timing is everything." The pulse fired, a piercing wave of energy meant to scramble the alien's neural pathways. For a moment, the Tomato Man faltered, its massive form shuddering, arms twitching unnaturally. Humanity cheered, but only for a heartbeat. The alien quickly recalibrated, swinging one arm with devastating speed. Entire squads were thrown like ragdolls, their weapons scattering into the snow. Lucas shouted over the comms, "It's faster than we predicted. Keep it occupied." Mora's fingers flew over the console, activating decoys and sonic traps. Fighter jets dove, weaving around deadly energy pulses. Tanks and artillery focused fire on its limbs, trying to slow it down. The battlefield became a storm of destruction. Snow turned to ash and ice shattered under the aliens' weight. Amid the chaos, Eli led a small strike team to the heart of the battle, aiming to get within range of the neural disruptor's optimal effect. They dodged debris and pulses, their movements precise, synchronized. Every second was a gamble. The Tomato Man sensed them, its glowing eyes locking onto Eli. It lunged with terrifying speed, one colossal hand sweeping through the battlefield. Soldiers scattered, some thrown aside, some barely escaping alive. Eli rolled under a fallen beam and fired a concentrated energy blast at its knee joint, a calculated weak spot identified by Lucas. Sparks flew, and the alien staggered. "This is it," Lucas yelled. "Keep pushing. Focus the disruptor." The pulse fired again, stronger this time, amplified by the combined energy of every remaining weapon. The Tomato Man faltered violently, howling in an alien resonance that shook the tundra. Limbs twitched, and its massive head shook as if fighting an invisible storm inside its own mind. But it wasn't done. With a terrifying roar, the alien adapted again, swinging a massive arm through the battlefield, toppling tanks and sending snow erupting into the air. One soldier, frozen in mid-step, barely dodged, and another disappeared entirely. The cost of human survival was written in blood and ice. Eli gritted his teeth, realizing the final gambit had to be personal. He led the remaining team closer, risking everything. Mara adjusted the disruptor's frequency, syncing it with Lucas's calculations, and finally, timing and technology aligned. The neural disruptor pulsed with raw power. For a long, terrifying moment, the Tomato Man froze mid-stride. Its massive form quivered, then collapsed onto the tundra, sending a wave of snow and ice cascading in all directions. Silence fell. Smoke rose, mingling with the snow. The world held its breath. Slowly, the alien moved again, but weaker, slower, disoriented. Humanity had forced it to retreat, and for the first time, the impossible seemed within reach. Eli lowered his weapon, voice hoarse but triumphant. "We did it, for now. But it's not gone. Not really." Lucas nodded, exhaustion etched on his face. "It learned, adapted, and we survived. Humanity always survives. We fight smarter, faster, harder. That's what makes us dangerous." Mara looked out over the battlefield, watching the alien retreating into the distance. "And that's just the beginning. The final move has to be absolute. We can't let it recover." Above the tundra, the Tomato Man's red eyes glowed faintly, scanning, calculating, and remembering. Humanity had won a battle, but the war was far from over. And somewhere deep in the alien's mind, one thought lingered. These humans, they never quit. The world had held its breath for weeks. Cities lay in ruin, forests were scarred, and oceans shimmered with the aftermath of the Tomato Man's march. Humanity had survived, but barely. And yet, in the hearts of men and women scattered across the globe, determination burned brighter than fear. Deep inside the reinforced command bunker of CERN Laboratory, Lucas Wren, Mara, and Captain Eli Vance reviewed the final strategy. The neural disruptor had worked once, but only temporarily. Humanity needed a decisive strike, a gambit that would ensure the alien could never rise again. Eli leaned over the table. We can't just react anymore. We hit it at the source. Its neural core, the pattern Lucas discovered in Part 3, is the key. One coordinated strike, and we neutralize it completely. Lucas's eyes glinted. It's risky. If we fail, this time there's no fallback. But it's our only chance. Mora's fingers danced across the interface, bringing up a global map of the alien's projected path. We lure it to the abandoned continent zone in Antarctica. Remote drones, decoys, the full force of what's left of humanity's arsenal. Everything converges there. It's isolated, controlled. We set the stage for the final act. The world held its breath as humanity prepared. Soldiers, engineers, pilots, and civilians volunteered. Every calculation, every weapon, every distraction was orchestrated to perfection. Then it arrived. The Tomato Man, colossal and crimson, advanced across the ice like a dark scar upon the white landscape. Its eyes scanned the horizon, glowing with intelligence, with memory of every encounter, every human tactic. It had learned, but humans had learned too. Eli led the strike team at the last possible moment. Drones swarmed from above, decoys flickered across the ice, and artillery fired in synchronized waves, all designed to confuse and occupy the alien. Lucas and Mara activated the neural disruptor, amplified to maximum capacity. A piercing pulse erupted, striking the alien's neural core with devastating precision. For a long, tense moment, it faltered, staggering as its massive limbs twitched uncontrollably. But this time, humanity was ready. Eli's team moved in with precision, exploiting every weakness, targeting the joints and core revealed in the earlier analysis. Rockets, plasma beams, and electromagnetic pulses hammered the creature from every direction. The Tomato Man roared, a sound that shook the ice and sent shock waves across the Antarctic expanse. But its staggering grew more pronounced, movements slower, weaker, more erratic. Humanity pressed the attack relentlessly, adapting with every twitch, every pulse. Finally, with a coordinated strike from the neural disruptor at its core, the alien collapsed, massive form shuddering one last time before falling silent. Ice cracked and snow erupted around it. Humanity had done the impossible. They had beaten a being designed to adapt, to dominate, to destroy. Eli lowered his weapon, chest heaving. It's over. Lucas and Mara stood silently, watching the crimson giant frozen in defeat. It adapted, Lucas said quietly, but we adapted faster. That's who we are. That's why we survive. Across the globe, survivors emerged from shelters and bunkers. Cheers erupted, mixed with tears. Humanity had lost much, cities, lives, innocence, but it had remembered its greatest skill, the ability to fight back when all seemed lost. Mara turned to Lucas. We never forget. Every lesson, every favor, every debt paid. Humanity always remembers. And sometimes our payback shakes worlds. Lucas nodded, watching the sunrise over a battered, scarred earth. And the universe just learned something too. Never underestimate humans. The world would rebuild. Technology would advance. Lessons would be etched into history. And in quiet corners, survivors whispered stories of a giant crimson enemy that had come to test them, and of the humans who had remembered, adapted, and triumphed. Humanity had survived the impossible. Humanity had returned the favor, and the memory of their payback would echo across worlds for centuries.